Delavie Sciences brings you skincare that's backed by science. Eonia age-defying skincare contains their patented ingredient that boosts hyaluronic acid and activates repair enzymes to diminish fine lines and wrinkles, improve skin elasticity, and even out your skin tone. It's clinically tested, scientifically proven, and dermatologist approved. Visit DelaVieSciences.com. That's DELAVIE Sciences.com. Promo code OFFER20 for a 20% discount. DelaVieSciences.com. Promo code OFFER20 for 20% off.
It's important to properly dispose of unwanted medication or sharps. MedProject offers free and convenient disposal options near you. To learn more, call 844-MED-PROJECT or visit medproject.org.
If you really like this episode, please support our podcast by going to patreon.com/truecrimewives and get lots of great extras. On the Good Wife's Guide to True Crime, we discuss crimes that some may find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised. So I know we promised to head on to Springfield tonight, but honestly, we just aren't ready yet. There is still a lot to discuss in Louisiana. We have so much more medical stuff to discuss and a little bit to cover on Dee Dee's fraud beyond the stuff with Gypsy, and then into the eye of Storm Katrina. So we'll be here maybe 2 more episodes, and then hopefully we can move on. One thing I can't stress enough in all of this is nobody, and I mean nobody involved is really a good historian nor a good narrator. They are all biased, and a lot of lies have been told, and a lot of cover-up of things has happened. And this goes from friends and family to doctors, and especially to Gypsy and Nick. I was honestly pretty pissed off when I realized that the family and Gypsy hadn't been as truthful as they had seemed or promised. But after speaking with leading MVP expert Louise Lasher, it all made much more sense. I'm going to talk about that later on when I give thoughts and feelings after 3 years of researching this case. But tonight, what I want to say is that it's not uncommon. And I really want to stress that Gypsy's case is not particularly rare. In fact, many cases we've looked at while researching this are far worse in terms of abuse sustained. But what made Gypsy's case rare was the outcome. It's not often you see this outcome of a victim killing the abuser, nor do you see this kind of abuse sustained for as long as it did. So tonight we'll address that in all of this. Gypsy had to participate. We will see how early that happened, and we will talk about why it happened. We will talk about classic MVP signs of this, but we'll also talk specifically about what Gypsy did and why we believe it happened. We also are going to share some interesting things about MVP families and how they are conditioned to make excuses and lie and distort the truth to justify their own actions, as well as that of the abused and abuser. So we've got a lot to talk about in the next 2 episodes. And I find this to be a really fascinating part of the case. Hey folks, it's time to grab your glass of wine because the Good Wives, Fancy, Colleen, and Christina, are about to serve up another true crime case.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in tonight. So I'm Colleen, if you can't tell by the high-pitchedness of my voice. But today we're going to still talk a little bit more about medical records and medical information in Louisiana prior to Missouri. There's just so much still left we have to talk about, including the different perspectives of her eye health, Gypsy's compliance, the different files and different doctors that she saw in between Louisiana and Missouri. Just tons of more information that we couldn't cram into the last one and that we couldn't cram into the next one.
There's just so much. Oh, there's just so much. I mean,
it's hard to condense thousands and thousands and thousands of pages even into the hour or 2 hour podcast that we have that specifically are just about medical. That's why there's technically like 4 different medical episodes, because it's so much detail of this case, and this is what everybody looks at in this case in terms of Munchausen by proxy. It's making somebody sick that, it's not somebody else making themselves sick, it's somebody else making someone else sick. And most commonly, mothers doing it to their children. But this case is different than other cases.
it really is. And that's one of the things, like, I think we struggle with. I was astounded when I reached out to Mark Feldman and a couple other experts that have spoke on it, that they literally have not looked at anything. They just are going on the fact that this was a medical abuse case, which I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with Mike and how he presented it. But I feel like they didn't look at the facts of the case to really have an understanding of what this case is really like, because I just really see it so differently.
Well, and I think many people do, especially if somebody has watched the Mommy Dead and Dearest or one of the other documentaries, or even if they watched the Hulu preview of The Act. Someone's going to look and really think that this was insane medical abuse, and that's, good for her for killing her mom after these years of medical abuse kind of situation. But
it's not that black and white.
It's not. There's a whole ombre spectrum of gray in this case.
Right. And
it's almost like you kind of go back and forth, like almost day to day with how you feel about it, because one minute it's like, okay, I completely understand what she was going through and, what was going on in this poor girl's head. But then you look at other things and it's like, but wait a minute, there's definitely more to Gypsy than what we see and than what we've heard. So it's like your emotions and your feelings and your opinions on it just can flip-flop from day to day, because it's so much, there's really so much to look at and so much to consider.
Day to day, Christina, I flip from minute to minute.
Well, because there's so many spectrums. We talk about, the social services side. We talk about the medical side. We talk about Dee Dee and her many different sides.
Right.
Gypsy then, Gypsy now, Rod and Christy. All the different players in this game have like several sides to them.
And the sad thing is that not a single one of them is reliable. So, I mean, because the perception and the way that they're just bad historians, man. It's not like you can get a reliable narrator out of anybody in this.
No, absolutely not. They know what, was their perspective. Rod and Christy have different perspectives than each other. They have different perspectives than what Dee Dee's ghost perspective is.
Right, I'm sure. And Gypsy, then Gypsy's family, Dee Dee's family, it's all, they all have pieces, like we've talked about before. They have pieces, but beyond just only having pieces of things, each person has a reason to hide things in this. And each person has reasons to not necessarily, it's not like a blatant lie, but it's like a misguiding of truth, if that makes any sense to anybody.
Yes.
Yeah. It's almost like steering you in the direction you're wanted to go in, without outright saying, well, this is what I want you to see and say.
Right.
So it's like a gentle steer in the right direction for them.
And I don't think that, I was talking about the MVP experts, I'm not knocking them in any way, shape, or form. I was just astounded that they hadn't actually got to look at the case. Like, they're going solely on medical abuse. That is their whole thing. I don't think they have any idea about, the actual inner workings of what went on. Like, I just don't think they can see it, because I would have never seen it. I mean, and just, when I first came to this case, my opinion was completely different it is today. My opinion was absolutely 100% this poor girl has been abused her whole life, and what kind of horrible mother does this to a person? And I still feel that way to some extent, because no child asks for any of this. But in the same thing, though, there is clear 100% participation from Gypsy in a lot of things. And I don't just think that it's because classically in MVP cases, the children will do things to please their parents. I don't think it's that. There's just too many things that are questionable.
Well, and it's hard because when we look at other Munchausen by proxy cases, you can see that there is physically something going on wrong, that they have all these hundreds and hundreds of procedures and surgeries, and all the scans show that there's a bleed in the brain, there's
high sugar levels, or I'm not sorry, salt levels, or
there are actual seizures being witnessed. There are so many things that are going on, and all the lab work and the tests show that there's something wrong, versus in this case there were tons of procedures done with anesthesia, which is dangerous, but all those scans and lab work were normal.
And that, I think that's the hardest thing I have to wrap my brain around is the normal. Then why did this happen? Because that makes absolutely no sense to me. No matter what way we shake the tree, that will never make sense to me. And so that clouds my mind. And, I just feel like I would love for someone like a Munchausen by proxy expert to really take a deep look at this. And we haven't had a chance for anybody to do that yet. We have a couple that we've contacted to look into it in further detail, and we will have a few of them will participate in the podcast and do an interview to educate just strictly on Munchausen by proxy. They'll do a general overview of it, but it's not going to be an in-depth look. But I'm hoping, when we get to the documentary, that we can get a really in-depth look from somebody who can say, okay, so yeah, it was one thing, we all believed that because of the medical abuse that it was Munchausen, but here's the real, looking at everything, here's what we really think from inside, not just looking at it on general terms,
Right. I think most people only know from what, news articles, media sources, and documentaries, and then the one show.
Yeah.
That's all they know from, or people talk to them about it. Like, oh, have you heard about the Gypsy Blanchard case? Like, no, tell me. And they're like, well, this girl was abused by her mom. She Munchausen's. Oh, that's the extent of a lot of their knowledge.
Exactly. And I can honestly say, and this isn't to toot our horn, but nobody has all the documentations that we have. Like, nobody has seen everything like we have. And we still don't have everything, but we have 100% the most comprehensive information out there. We have, tons and tons and tons of medical files that nobody else had gotten. Because we worked really hard to get all those, and we worked with Gypsy to get them, because one of the things we wanted to do was to put this comprehensive look together so she would know exactly what was done to her over the years, so she could see, so we have that. We've got the documents from, the police reports and all of those things, and then we did interviews and obviously talked to experts and things. So, I mean, we have more information than anybody's ever had on this case. In fact, I think we have more than even Christy and Rod at this point, because we just gathered and gathered and gathered. So, I don't fault the media, but I think the media has been a big deal in portraying this case one way. Whether that was blatant or it was just the information they had at the time, I don't know, but it's been very, very skewed. Nobody wants to say anything?
I was waiting to see if Christina wanted to say
Sorry, I'm
anything.
trying not to cough.
Okay.
I was trying not to cough. I think we definitely see, for the most part, a pro-Gypsy narrative in most places in the media, for sure.
And it's really not until you get into the case files and look at everything and lay it out that you see anything different. I can honestly say that.
Oh, right. Especially, what we know and what we talked about in the last episode was that this started literally from the moment Dee Dee knew she was pregnant and continued on until the day Dee Dee died.
Sure.
And even for a week afterwards when she was in Wisconsin.
Right.
But this, I don't know how to say it, but that a lot of things have made it so that Gypsy is seen in this poor me light. But if anybody has seen some of the things that have come from Gypsy and her words and what she has said, not only in regards to her life prior and about Dee Dee, but about her and her life now and her future, they will see that this is not the innocent girl who pretended to be 10 years younger than she was.
Right.
She is an adult. She knows what she's doing. And it is very much about how things are portrayed and how somebody wants them to be viewed. It's my favorite example is when it comes to a parental relationship with their child, that their child is going to tell their parents everything from their side to make it so that it's that they're the victim and everything is poor me, when in reality that's one person's viewpoint. Versus,
you can think of it like a custody battle almost, right?
Yes.
Right? Because both parents are like, well, the other parent is terrible when in bad custody battles, they go to court and they basically just, it's all what they see on their side. Well, that parent does this and and the other side's like, well, this person does that, and they do that,
still do that,
and they do that to the children. And that's kind of what I feel like we have here, where it's never going to be a totally unbiased story, no matter who you're talking to, because the facts of the case are so muddled. Yeah. And you can look at it, and like we said, it's from minute to minute. I look at one document, I'm like, oh my God, that's terrible. I'm looking at a biopsy where she's having, muscle part of her muscle taken, and I'm like, that's awful. And then I'm looking at the next document and I'm going, oh, but look what she's doing here, and that's willful, and so it's hard. And then I think that for us, our viewpoint, we've talked about this several times, changed seeing that video, seeing the interrogation video. It really changed us. It changed for every single person on the team. I don't think there was anyone that watched that and then just went, yeah, I totally get it. No, every single one of us went, oh, wow, that's not what I was expecting,
right, for somebody, she sat there and lied for hours.
For hours.
Hours. They already knew. They already knew. And she was, what? Yeah. And there's so many things we're going to talk about later in the series about different parts of that, because I intend to break it down really, really high, because there are things, and if you are not listening, there's just so many things that you look at and you're in that video that if you're not paying attention, you won't catch.
especially if you don't know what we know. You know, like when you think about it, we can sit there and we can really break down because we have all the documents, and so we have all the other stuff that pretty much goes, oh, wait a minute, no, right there, that's nope. No, try again. So that video was really hard for us to see, you know, because it really changed a lot of what we thought we knew.
Don't go anywhere. The Good Wives will be right back. In every episode, we like to serve up a special dish from the state that our crime takes place. So here's our resident Cajun Mama Ty to tell you what our true crime dish of the week is.
Bonjour, mon ami. I hope everyone is as excited as I am to be here because I have another recipe for you. Yes, it's me again, Cajun Mama Ty, here with a Cajun recipe. As we continue our discussion on Gypsy and Dee Dee's case here in Louisiana, we begin to move out of the Cajun country and head to the great city of New Orleans. Every city has a powerful name. New York has the Big Apple. Las Vegas is Sin City. Los Angeles is City of Angels or Tinseltown. Well, New Orleans is no exception. New Orleans was given the nickname the Big Easy by a female writer for the Times-Picayune, a local newspaper. In the early 70s. She wrote an article comparing the Big Easy New Orleans to the Big Apple New York. The article refers to how the Big Easy is a laid-back, music-inspired, jazzy partying into the night kind of town with good music and awesome Creole-inspired food. Which brings me to today's recipe, Creole mac and cheese.
On July 31st, 2002, Gypsy was seen at Children's Hospital for recurrent otitis media, which is ear infections. And the doctor noted that she had recurrent otitis media and she was being considered for having ear tubes placed. And then the next month, on August 22nd, with the same physician, the doctor noticed again recurrent otitis media, and now she has a perforation, which means that there is a hole through her eardrum. The doctor notes that she should be getting these ear tubes for a bilateral tympanostomy tube placement. So otitis media is when the eardrum or surrounding structures of the inner ear becomes infected. It happens a lot in small children, and many kids get tympanostomy tubes, which help drain the fluid so it doesn't congest and then get infected. The issue is that we're noticing that there are perforations in her eardrum that usually is only caused by when somebody is shoving something into the eardrum, causing it to perforate, such as a Q-tip, which is why it is not recommended that you use a Q-tip to clean ears, but use a warm washcloth. And we'll see the Q-tip and the perforation noted throughout the rest of Gypsy's hospital records, that she's suffering from these ear infections with perforation. That can be really dangerous. Having a perforated eardrum can cause hearing loss. And the tympanostomy tubes are very common, and then as soon as the child no longer needs them, the body actually will push them out themselves, and the child won't need a further follow-up surgery. So on January 21st, 2003, Gypsy was seen again at Children's Hospital by the same physician that she saw for those recurrent otitis media ear infections. And this was supposed to be a follow-up appointment regarding the PE tube placement, those tympanostomy tubes. But the issue is that Dee Dee never returned to the clinic for that follow-up appointment for the ear tube placement. Follow-up phone calls, conversations, mom reports no problems or hearing concerns at that time. So the tubes are in, but Dee Dee is not following up with this same physician. So we don't know if she went to another physician or another hospital regarding the ear tubes at this point. But for some reason, Dee Dee didn't want to go back to that same doctor.
Could that be because of her not needing them and because at some point they fall out, yeah?
Yes, so in the next couple of months, they're going to fall out and get put back in several times, which is really unnecessary because, like I said, when ear tubes are no longer needed, the body pushes them out. So the fact that they fall out and then she gets them put back in more than once is insanely medically unnecessary. But so whether Dee Dee did not like that physician and maybe that physician might have been concerned about the ear perforation, or Dee Dee wanted to continue doing a problem with the ear infections and kind of continuing that ball, we don't know. But for some reason, Dee Dee did not want to see this doctor again with Gypsy and only would do phone conversations. And then she said, everything is fine.
Everything is fine, but I'm having them replaced other places.
Yes.
Oh, wow. You can't make this shit up, folks. You just can't. Well, I mean, I guess you can, because Dee Dee apparently did.
Yeah,
but
you can.
I can't make this shit up.
I don't know.
Oh my God, these eye surgeries! I just
well, and when people talk about this case, they say, "Oh, the difference! So many surgeries." Yeah, she did have a lot of surgeries. 90% on her eyes.
Right.
And each one of the surgeries could cause issues because they're all about the muscles around the eye. And so all the surgeries on her eyes can cause the muscles to weaken more. So the lazy eye keeps coming back.
Well, that's one of the things that's listed in the actual files of that. One of the doctors literally says the risks outweigh the benefits of this, but mom and patient want to go ahead and do it. Like, okay, I've never heard of that as being a criteria for deciding to operate on somebody, but hey,
Well, not only to have it done one time, but to have it done several times.
Several times.
I think the count is 12 all in total. It's 12. 12 eye surgeries, which is the most absurd number for an eye surgeries whatsoever. And, when I think about these eye surgeries and the fact, like you said, first of all, the eyes surgeries themselves could have ramifications to cause more eye problems. But then I think about that statement that Bobby Petrie made and saying that she made homemade glasses for her, which who makes homemade glasses? Like, I have the most crazy idea of what these glasses had to look like.
Your theory first, Fancy.
My theory first. Okay. I picture actual Coke bottle bottoms that are the lenses and these because you see them. Every time you see her, the glasses are 9 sizes too big for her face, and they're completely these old grandma glasses. They're ugly as crap. She doesn't go and get her nice glasses or even kid glasses. No, that's not for you, honey. We're just going to get you these shitty looking, Poindexter grandma glasses that are fugly, and I'm going to take out the lenses and I'm going to stick Coke bottle lenses in there. And that's what I'm going to stick on your face. That's what I think of every time I think about these glasses. Now, I know that sounds absurd, but really, with Dee Dee, does it sound all that absurd? I don't know.
See, my theory, probably a little bit realistic,
right,
is that if anybody who likes thrift shopping, like I do, you know that Goodwill has little, like, the jewelry cases, and in them there are like 50 pairs of like grandpa and grandma glasses that just like get donated, and they're old aviator plastic or metal framed glasses. And so that's where, you know, the frames from the 80s and, you know, 70s that she got them from. But then my theory of how she kept screwing up this kid's eyeballs were that she would put, not even from that same pair of glasses, but one lens from a second pair of glasses, then the other lens from a third pair of glasses into those frames. Right. Because it would make your eyes not focus properly, and one would be a higher strength than the other.
New on Curiosity Stream.
I'm James Burke. I'm going to take you on a journey through time.
James Burke's visionary series returns, reimagined for our time.
Now, this is all uncharted territory.
The Washington Post hails Burke as one of the most intriguing minds in the Western world. The New York Times raves he careens from one great moment in history to another.
Where do we want to go from here?
Experience all new Connections.
So what's the next connection?
With monthly, annual, and bundled plans, find the one that works for you at curiositystream.com.
This episode is brought to you by Utilize, the app that lets you rent anything to and from your neighbors. Rent paddleboards, trailers, bounce houses, and just about anything else. You can turn it into an easy side hustle by renting out the stuff you already own. Best of all, it's a greener way to live because you don't need to buy the party supplies, outdoor gear, or tools that you'll only use once or twice. Now just rent them, all for less. Download the app today. Utilize. YOODLIZE.
And just totally screw up her vision.
Right,
and
because we see it on both eyes. It's one eye is fine, then the next eye is not. The next time it's the other eye. So it's like she's switching them around. It's almost like, do you remember those what was it, a Swatch watch back in the day where you could like pop it off and stick on a new face, like on all of those? That's what I think. Like she's like swapping out these lenses, just popping them in and out, just making them worse, making it better.
Well, right, like you get a second frame and then put the opposite, you know, lenses in each one. So you have one pair of glasses with the left eye is one and the right eye is the other. And the other set is the opposite. And so after an eye surgery, they think, okay, these glasses are going to work fine now. Then you put on the second pair. And that's why you need 12 eye surgeries before you're 25.
That do absolutely nothing to help.
You know, all those plastic bins that we see in the photos of their house, I think like one of those bins was just filled with different frames, different lenses, and she would just alternate and switch when she wanted to mess with Gypsy's eyes.
God, totally doable.
That's how I picture it. Like she pulled out the bin and like, okay, Gypsy, time to change your prescription. And would pop in 2 new lenses or a different frame, and here you go, and those would be her new glasses.
Right, because, you know, have you ever tried on glasses from someone else? Like,
yes.
And you're like, oh my God, how do you see out of these, you know?
Right, your vision is terrible.
This is terrible. Right, that's what I see. And then the other thing I think of is like, you know, the glasses that have like the tape in the middle, like, and they're like wired all weird onto her head. Like, that's what I think of, because it just, oh my God.
Number 1, number 2, number 1,
but
number 2.
Whoever knows what is better? Do you ever know? Because I don't. They do that and I'm like, I don't know. 1, maybe? I guess. I'm guessing as to whether 1 or 2 is better.
Oh, yeah. Like 60% of the time, I'm like, I don't know. Probably 2. Actually, no, number 1. I don't know, the same. The same.
That's what I do. I'm like, can you do it again? Can you do it again? I'm really not sure.
I'm not seeing a difference. They both look equally shitty. Like, you know? And then
I could definitely see Dee Dee doing that.
Oh God, yeah. I can see all different kinds of things. And like, I just think it's funny that literally Bobby termed them as homemade glasses. Like, that's just a funny thing to say. Like, who makes homemade glasses? I mean, that's just well, I mean, her grandpa is crafty. Maybe it was her grandpa who made them. Who knows? I don't know.
Right, maybe that she had to cut the metal of the glasses to put the different frames in, but maybe he had like a blowtorch so she could solder it back together, made them look nice and new again.
Oh my God.
I was thinking homemade, like magnifying glasses. She would take the lens from those and rig up some kind of contraption to make them stay on.
I could totally see that, like two like magnifying glasses around her head, like held on by a wire. You know?
Yeah.
See, I guess I'm more thrifty. I'm like, let's just swap out random other people's old prescriptions.
Oh God, what a nightmare. I can't even imagine. How do you even think of that, to like hand that to a kid and be like, how do I screw up her fucking eyes? Oh, I know. I'll just go buy her random glasses from places. I don't care. Doesn't matter what they look like or what prescription they are. No, we don't need to go to an eye doctor. Why would we do that?
Well, it's very, very strange that I don't know why that wasn't even a first tip off. Usually somebody needs glasses because one or both of their parents has a history of needing glasses,
right?
Or, other first degree relative.
Well, the thing we don't see either is just like, I don't see her going just for follow-up eye exams, like just regular eye exams. There's no just regular eye exams.
No, there's not.
Prescription for glasses. There's none of those things. There is at one point in time later in the files, I know when we get into Springfield, where they try to tell her that they think she should just try wearing specific glasses for the stigmatism for 6 to 8 weeks. She never comes back. And then of course, the next thing is we're having surgery again.
Right. It's not, that she's seen an ophthalmologist and that, they are giving the prescription. She fills it at a special, no. The only people who touch her eyes are surgeons.
Like,
they're not, no.
Shouldn't that have been a clue?
Probably.
Unreal.
And then we've got the ears things. Oh, these ear infections literally kill me. I know that these ear things, these ears really bother me. It really pisses me off because I had to fight for years for my daughter to get tubes put in her ears. I went all the time. Every time the wind changed, we were either swimming, anything, water touched her, like a drop hit her head, and she's like, ow, ow, mom, ow. And so we were like constantly at the doctor for ear infections. We never had perforations, first of all, let me tell you that. And beyond that, they never put the tubes in until her hearing was totally damaged. My daughter has 50% hearing loss in one ear because of the fact that they would not put these tubes in, and the scarring was so bad. And when the doctor that finally put the tubes in was like, you should have had these tubes in her ears 2 years ago. Meanwhile, Gypsy Blanchard over here has had 15 sets of freaking ear things put into her head.
Well, and what's terrible is that ear tubes are meant that they're not like a hard, rigid piece that they have to go in and grab them and then, to take them out surgically. That these tubes, the ear pushes them out when they are no longer needed.
Right.
And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they just naturally fall out. You don't go back and have them taken out or anything like that. They just naturally fall out when the ear is healed and decides that it's doing well. And generally, one time is all you need. I think maybe 2 times, like
max.
That's if like a couple years have gone by and then something changes and you're getting them again by some weird fluke. It's not.
But right, not every 6 months for a couple years you're getting constant tubes put in, and every time she goes to an emergency room for these ears, there is a hole, a puncture in her eardrum.
That's
which
easy to do.
No, you have to pretty much solidly shove something into a child's ear to break that. And it's painful. And it's painful for the time period that it has to heal from. They just imagine sticking a Q-tip in a child's ear, very like a half, almost to the whole Q-tip in their ear. And it's painful.
No, see, that's where you flip back and go, oh, well, that's clearly abuse, you know,
Yep.
like, but I just, I don't know. I don't get it.
Well, and that's a clue. If every few months you're going in to the emergency room and the ER visits show that, oh, here your eardrum was punctured 2 months ago and it healed, but now it's punctured again, like a fresh puncture. What's going on? Maybe do some education, if you know anything.
I mean,
but
what would even be a logical reason for that?
An accident that the kid was messing around and she wanted to clean her ears like mom and she didn't realize what happened, or you know.
And see, again, we don't see her going to an ear, nose, throat doctor. Again, it's not that. Only when they're putting tubes in.
Yeah, nope, that's it. Never sees like a regular follow-up with ENT, which you think that she would, because 90% of a lot of her conditions included her ears, her respiratory system.
Right.
And her high, the high voice, which is a palate thing, and asthma and nasal allergies.
I think about that all the time. When I first started this case, one of the things I said was, okay, well, maybe doctors didn't think about her not following up because like once a person leaves and they don't come back, like I'm not, and there's no doctor that's hunting them down. But then again, like in this case, like that was when I hadn't seen all the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of documents. And then when I saw them, I'm like, okay, so she never follows up like she's told. She never returns for follow-up visits for anything. The only time she comes back is when, oh, we're getting a new surgery. That's it. There's nothing else. Like, that's the thing that I would have thought would have been a red flag too. Like, these doctors, I don't understand.
These are the times when my heart really breaks for what was done to Gypsy.
Yes. Because whether you believe that she participated willingly or not, no child decides one day to get up and just be like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm just going to totally be sick all the time. That's not something that a kid decides. That's is ingrained into them, that is, put into their brain. And I do believe that at some point in time, Gypsy willingly decided that this was okay and continued on, because I can think of, what happens in Springfield. You see a ramp up of things, but yet they're very superficial things.
Right. They're not as severe versus, the things that are in Louisiana with, every couple months, when she's a young child, that she's getting her eardrums broken and busted. Right. Or, when she had her Nissen fundoplication.
Right. All of that was done early, before she was like 10,
right. So there's no, participation
there.
I think there really wasn't any participation until between the ages of 11 and 14.
Yeah.
That's about when things started changing in terms of a medical perspective.
Right.
But also around that age, you become more aware. You're not thinking like a kid anymore. You start thinking as a teenager and understanding what's really happening. And possibly understanding the benefit of being
because
culpable.
That's when the fraud for more financial things began too. More financial stuff began at that time, between the 11 and 15, is when She started getting more trips, and then when she got to Springfield, game on, man. I mean, they defrauded every person and came under the sun with them. But yeah, I mean, so I feel like, obviously it started off maybe as whatever Dee Dee was doing. I don't freaking know. Munchausen, if you want to call it that, or just a con, or sociopathy, child abuse. I don't know. Like, the term is loose there. But it definitely turned into a case of malingering in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. I think that one is good. Do we want to add anything else in there, guys?
I had a question.
No.
Did we talk about Beckerman yesterday?
I don't know.
I want to say we did, because we talked.
Don't go anywhere. The Good Wives will be right back.
If you love mac and cheese, you'll love this recipe. It's mac and cheese with a little kick. The first thing you'll want to do is to boil your water to put your elbow macaroni in. You want your macaroni to be al dente, or like I say, just a little crunchy. Next step, you want to cook the andouille sausage. If you don't have andouille sausage, you can use any type of fresh sausage. In a small pan over medium heat, you cook the sausage until it's completely cooked, and then you set it aside. In that same small pan, you want to take a little pat of butter, and you want to brown your breadcrumbs and set them aside with a little Parmesan cheese. Next, you will begin to make what is called a white roux. Combine butter and flour using a wire whisk. Continue to stir until it's golden in color. Add your seasonings, milk, and bring it to the boil over medium heat. You want to put your cheese and continue stirring until it's completely melted and it's nice and thick. Place the elbow macaroni, sausage mixture, cheese sauce into a baking pan. Cover with the Parmesan breadcrumb mixture.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
And shredded cheese on top. Bake it in the oven, and Creole mac and cheese. It's the best.
Ty, another great recipe. For the full recipe that was shared tonight, join us at our exclusive membership club at www.patreon.com/truecrimewives.
So in January of 2004, and earlier than 2004, in the middle of 2003, Gypsy started seeing Beckerman at Tulane Hospital in Louisiana. And we have yet to receive all of Beckerman's files. And on this one occasion from 2004, we have Gypsy being seen by a Dr. Kerman. And Beckerman at the time was on a leave of absence. And so Gypsy saw this doctor, and he related to Mom that she was not hypersalivating, had no excess or choking on medications or when she was kind of under anesthesia. And he made a referral to a doctor for removal of the salivary glands despite having no evidence of choking.
But he didn't think it was going to help her. Yeah?
Nope, didn't think it was going to help, but he still recommended that she have surgery to remove her salivary glands.
And in this document, I mean, when I read it, the thing that I got from it was basically that he thought Beckerman's assessment was basically bullshit. Yeah?
Yes, exactly. Because then the next week, Gypsy is back and she does see Beckerman. And Beckerman's swallow modification findings, he even writes in his own words, no evidence of aspiration or significant gagging, coughing, or anything related to her swallowing or choking with the salivary glands. That's his own words the week after his doctor who was covering him on his leave of absence said the same thing, but that doctor recommended she get her salivary glands removed, and then she does.
Okay, and so now so even in this document, Beckerman is basically contradicting what he had previously said, yeah?
Yes, which is not anything new.
No, it's not. The Beckerman is who, when a long time ago, we read on a Facebook Live directly from Beckerman's assessment of things. And it's from Missouri, but it's the same kind of thing. Basically, in that entire document, he contradicts himself. He contradicts how many times he's seen her. He's contradicted when was the last time he saw her. He contradicts his own findings. He contradicts the lab results. Like in this one actual 3-page document. Like, so Beckerman is extremely suspect in all of this. And if you guys don't know, she follows him from Louisiana, then she shows up in Missouri, and miraculously he is there.
Yep.
I don't find that coincidental. I don't think that was just some happenings of the universe. I just don't. I don't know. We'll never know because Beckerman refuses to send us anything, no matter how many times Gypsy has signed for those documents. He will not release them. He does not acknowledge that we even send anything to his office. So that seems very suspect to me as well.
Yes.
There is an article that, that he, instead of focusing on her health and all of that, he does like this article in the Children's Hospital like newsletter where he talks about reuniting with his favorite patient and blah, blah, blah. And Gypsy herself has even said that her mother and Beckerman had a friendship that went beyond being doctor and patient, a mother of the patient relationship. Like they would actually go to his house. They did different things with him. So I just truly believe that there is something more there. I don't know if we'll ever know, but it's very suspicious.
Very, very suspicious. Doctors usually do not follow even the most severe patient across the country to then be a medical provider for them. And even though we do see him pop up in her medical records, he isn't the only physician that we see. We have many other physicians. And but he's somehow always there.
Yeah, very present. And it seems like, and he, when I first read it, I thought he was like her primary doctor on things in neurology. And now as we've gotten into it, he's not. But somehow he seems like it, because they're all writing to him. It seems like he keeps the thing going. Like it's, I don't know. It all comes back. All roads lead back to Beckerman. It's very strange.
It is insane.
It's extremely, extremely strange. And I don't know. I think there is something there that no one will ever know, because he's certainly not going to talk.
He's never going to say what it was. Gypsy will never really know what was going on behind the scenes, and Dee Dee is no longer here to say.
Right. I mean, the only way that anything could get really taken is if a board looked at it, or if Medi-Cal, Medicaid, Medi-Cal, whatever they were on, would look into it. That's the only thing I can think of. But even then, I just don't think we're going to get the answers that we'd like on that.
No, we won't.
And now this is, correct me if I'm wrong, Colleen, this is where we start to see Gypsy's participation more in these things. Like you had said to me the other day about something about her like holding saliva in her mouth and letting it pool.
Yes. So throughout 2004, she is seen for many different reasons, but when she goes under for her salivary glands, they kind of do a test prior to that. And even at that test, when Beckerman was on his leave of absence, it is shown that she was holding saliva purposely in her mouth. That it, not that it wasn't unable to go down her throat, but that it was being held in her mouth. She was not choking. She was not aspirating. It was purposely being pulled. So throughout 2004, we see on many different occasions when they do studies and when they do remove her salivary glands that Gypsy is holding the saliva in her mouth. Not that it's pooling there and she's unable to swallow, but that she's purposely holding it. She's not aspirating, she's not coughing, she's not choking. It's just being held. And we can tell it was being held on purpose because they would be able to make her laugh or make her talk, and the saliva would go down just fine, no choking, coughing, gagging. It was being held on purpose, which I don't know if the purpose was that Dee Dee really wanted to get her salivary glands removed as another surgery, but she had no real reason for needing her salivary glands removed.
And I mean, at this point, we can't say that she's a little kid and she's whatever. It's 2004, so she's 14.
Yep.
She's 14 now. So this is willingly participating in this at this point.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. And see, that's what I don't know. I am struggling lately. I have been reading and researching some more things in the files as we were preparing for this, and I am having a lot of struggle with it because some of the statements that I have read and things that Gypsy said in offshoots and things like that, it just really, I'm very questioning of her motives, her reasoning. Recently, we heard an email that she wrote about a relationship that she supposedly said she didn't have. Now she's saying she did have. And in that email to the person, she does talk about the fact that, she's wiser now than she should have just stood up and blah, blah, blah. And she didn't. And she doesn't even know why she didn't. And I'm sorry, I'm getting to a point where I feel like her story changes based on the wind.
Oh, definitely. And the thing is, I can't even blame her because it was who she was brought up to be.
Absolutely.
And it's like I feel bad, and then at the same time it's hard. She wasn't in education. She wasn't really socialized. It was she was essentially kind of like how we say that, oh, homeschool kids are weird and different. Like this is to another level. And
it does.
I think she would always be manipulative because that's who she was literally brought up to be at the, age of 9. She's, or even younger, being told, sit in the chair, try not to move your legs. Like,
well, and then based on what we have personally requested and gotten, what we realized is that the documents that Mike had, her defense attorney had, Stanfield, were mainly follow-ups and lab reports and not necessarily the vast amount of content that we have.
Yeah.
Which means that he based his defense on half of the truth, in my opinion. He's a good lawyer. He did what he was supposed to do. He did what he's supposed to do as a defense attorney. He made it not about a freedom and a boy and killing her mom and all about medical abuse. And the more that I get into this, the less it's about medical abuse.
Yeah. Because as we see in other cases, there's way more medical abuse that can happen. This is,
Sure.
I think, needing the attention that medical provides, but without the wanting to kill your kid kind of thing.
Yeah, I
think it was attention seeking.
I think it was fraud, definitely. I think it was attention seeking, absolutely. But I'm not seeing the classic things that I've seen in other cases, such as Lacey Spears, and we keep going back to that because that's one of the other cases that we're really looking at, in the fact of making her extremely, extremely ill.
Right.
I don't see it.
It's more small things, ear
and procedure.
Right, ear infections with hearing the ear tubes, with getting the feeding tube and then changing out the button, or the area around it gets infected, or asthma follow-ups. Salivary glands is, I think, another way that she went around having something small. There was never major things. I mean, she had the Nissen fundoplication in the G2 when she was very, very young, but her entire later childhood, teenage years, and young adulthood, it's very much just small things: feeding tube, ear infections, sore throat, asthma, not major intestinal surgery or broken bones. Or
I mean, we did have the biopsy. That's huge.
The biopsies.
But yeah, those are rather invasive.
But I mean, it could be, right, like you're saying, like it could be worse.
Very much so. Yeah.
Don't go anywhere. The Good Wives will be right back. What if you could be a true crime detective right from the comfort of your own home? Dispatch is an interactive serial mystery that unfolds over several months. Imagine the experience of an escape room in your own home, a new kind of escape called Dispatch. It's a subscription box that is a step apart from everyday entertainment, better than a book, more engaging than television. Think of it as an immersive mystery where you wear the detective hat. The story begins with the first delivery, or dispatch, if you will. In it, you'll find physical clues that lead you to the web and back to the real world to unravel a mysterious crime. Grab a friend, the whole family, and your thinking cap, and get ready to put your heads together for one mind-bending ride, as additional details are revealed with every package. Check out the description for a special link to grab your dispatch box today and start your own true crime detectiving. We absolutely love hearing from our listeners, and we'd like to invite you to send us a question for us to answer or a case you'd like us to cover. You can do this in two different ways. You can send us a message right here at anchor.fm/truecrimewives, and we might play it live in one of our next episodes, or you can drop us an email at goodwivesdish, that's DISH, @gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
May of 2004, she sees a GI nutritionist regarding the fact that she is 14 and needing her formula to be switched from Pediasure to something that has a higher nutritional intake. So the doctor then sent over a letter to Coram Healthcare, which is like a healthcare distributive home care supply. So CPAPs, the feeding tube bags, and whatnot.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
And Coram actually had written a letter back to the doctor because Dee Dee had called them that she did not want Gypsy to be on this new formula, Osmolite, but that Dee Dee wanted to keep her on Pediasure and increase the amount of Pediasure given to her. But Dee Dee refused the new higher calorie dense formula, and so Coram had to write a letter back to the doctor saying that it was refused.
Now, why would she do that?
I talk about this a lot, that I think Dee Dee did slightly starve her, because if she gave her more calories and more sugar, and that she would grow more, would have more energy, have higher level thinking, because your brain needs all those calories and sugar to actually function properly, and it would decrease her blood levels in any, make her look malnourished, even though she's getting enough formula. And that just didn't happen. And so staying on Pediasure at 14 and being an actual healthy person really is quite damaging. And I don't believe that Dee Dee for a second gave her the proper amount of Pediasure either. The one issue I do see with this is that GI physician did not follow up. Whether he got the letter or not from Coram regarding Dee Dee's refusal, but we don't have any follow-up regarding her formula change until the next year. Literally a year later. Wow. She went another year at 14. You're supposed to be hitting your growth spurt. And she went a whole year of being at the incorrect calorie intake. And then we go on into the summer of 2004, and Gypsy is seen for her asthma, gets some medication changes, and then she goes under again in June of 2004 for getting her more of her salivary glands removed due to hypersalivation and muscular dystrophy as the diagnosis on why she's needing them removed. And so the operative report, they do another Botox injection to the parotid and submandibular salivary glands. She was placed.
Now, what is this? What is the significance of the Botox?
The Botox paralyzes the muscle to help relax it and to help it produce less of the saliva.
So they try this instead of taking out the salivatory glands, but it doesn't work according to Dee Dee.
Right. So she gets the Botox several times, but it doesn't work. So then she's going under IV sedation as well as inhaled sedation to then remove those salivary glands again. So they removed some the first time, and now they're taking more out. Because there's a lot of different salivary glands in your neck and in your mouth that produce saliva all over the place. So when they took a few out, it was to help produce less saliva, not no saliva. And so that's how she can do Botox injections again and again. And then they're taking more out, but they don't take all of them out. That's why to this day, Gypsy is able to eat and by mouth because she still produces some saliva. But it was just another IV and inhaled sedation surgery to her face for diagnosis that she didn't have, for the diagnosis to be hypersalivation and muscular dystrophy. She has neither of those, and they used those as an excuse to do this surgery.
Have it because they even said that she didn't have it,
Correct.
right?
Literally 5 months prior, both of the doctors said she did not have either of those.
This is what boggles my mind.
It's contradictory. Every single doctor contradicts themselves multiple times.
I don't understand Dee Dee in the first place. Let me just. I don't understand Dee Dee, and what she did to Gypsy is terrible. Don't get me wrong. I do believe that Gypsy participated in it, and I think she willingly participated in it at some point in time. Whether, and we've talked about this, whether that was a bid at I'm scared or mom rewards me or both. We'll never know. I mean, Gypsy is an unreliable narrator at best. Let's just say that. I mean, she's manipulative. She lies. She changes her story. I mean, that's all from Dee Dee. Let's just be. But the doctors, I don't understand the doctors. I literally don't understand at all, ever, how you just say, well, nope, we don't find anything, and we're still going to do it. That's not the same thing as based on mom's history of whatever she says. That's completely negligent and different.
Right. When a doctor examines her and says she does not have hypersalivation, she's not choking, she's not aspirating, but I still recommend that she have Botox and her salivary glands removed. In the same paragraph.
I just, why would, and how does that get through? I don't understand Colleen, how does this get through Medicaid?
I think, I can't say how government healthcare works or how they can say that this is covered and that's covered. I don't think that they were going through page by page of her records. And I think when a doctor faxes that, hey, we need to see if this surgery is covered, and Medicaid says, yep, it's covered, and then they just kind of move through. I don't know exactly how it works, but the fact that it literally probably went through hundreds of doctors, thousands of nurses, and other medical staff, and it was just done without any questioning. Like one doctor out of thousands questioned something. That's not enough. That's not good enough.
It's not good enough. That's exactly it. Exactly it. It's not good enough.
And then related to her getting her more salivary glands removed, 2 weeks later, she sees a respiratory physician regarding hyperventilation now, which they say is related to the hypersalivation. And they do another sleep study, and they give her the CPAP. So they give her a CPAP at home.
But she already had a CPAP.
Yeah, they gave her another CPAP.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. There's like no response to that. Like, okay.
Moving on. I mean, I'm at such a loss for words with this crap.
So the date is 6/29, and she sees a respiratory, physician, which borders on ENT. They got to look at your upper respiratory system. Every doctor checks your ears, nose when you see them. Well, then tell me why 3 days later she's in the emergency room with another ear infection with a perforated eardrum. So again, something was shoved into this child's ear to puncture her eardrum, and she's in the emergency room 3 days later.
Now, okay, this is going to get sticky, and some people may or may not like me asking this, but at this point, Colleen, are we sure that that's Dee Dee sticking it in there, or is that Gypsy?
I don't think that Gypsy would be able to do this to herself on purpose, because it is pretty painful to do it. And it would have to be very purposeful, quick, hard push to do it, and then let it get infected. And then her ear would be ringing and quite painful. So knowing how she is, I don't think she would be able to do it on her own. So I think that in these cases, it was more on Dee Dee's side. Versus when I'm about to talk about her feeding tube.
Now, okay, so before we get into the feeding tube, let me ask this though. So this is being done purposely, and you're saying it's painful and everything else. So is this something that could have been done while she was sleeping and she wouldn't have known, or is it something that she would have had to sit still for to have happen? I mean, because she's not a little kid anymore. It's not like a little kid where you can do it and they're like, ow, and then you just go on or whatever. This is something, she's 14.
Right.
So
I think that in my head, when I look at these situations, because it happens again multiple times, even like it happens like 5 days later again, that to do it, when I visualize this, she would have to be sitting down or laying down, holding something pretty tight, because she would be knowing what is coming, because it has happened to her many, many times in the past. So she knows what to kind of expect from it. So she'd be gripping something really tight, and she probably might struggle because she knows it's going to hurt, but she would have to really be like sitting purposefully, kind of expecting it, because there's no way that Dee Dee is going to be able to tackle her, sit on top of her, and shove a Q-tip in her ear, and that'd be the only problem wrong.
So then I go back to the whole thing again of then fear and intimidation, because I can't imagine anybody just willingly doing that.
Right. I think there's so many different things that I think the ear thing was something that I don't think she wanted to do, because there's no reward in that for her. She loses kind of some hearing for a while. It hurts, her ears ringing. It's infected. It can cause permanent hearing damage because it happens so many times. And there's really not a kind of reward for that, because it's painful, and there's not, they don't give you pain meds for that. They give you ear drops and oral antibiotics.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And but see, Gypsy never talks about this. Like, I've talked to her numerous times. Titania's talked to her numerous times. People have asked her. She never speaks about this. She never tells anybody that this happened to her. So I really struggle with it, because I just don't understand if this was all happening at 14 years old. I just don't know why it didn't come up.
I think at this
it's never come up.
And what has happened to her mentally, with her mental age even, and knowing how, post-traumatic stress works, I believe that she has blocked 75 or more % of all of this out. And I don't think her brain is ever going to let her go there. And so I think 25% of her probably knows, what she was culpable in and what she wasn't, and kind of could give more, but I don't think she's ever going to say it. But 75%, I believe, she's blocked out. Her brain has done it for her. And there's not a recall thing unless she went to intensive therapy to try to recall those memories. And I don't think she's going to do that, whether that's she doesn't want to know or doesn't want other people to know. But a lot of times when you do that therapy to try to recall those memories, it's very painful. And you can physically even feel that pain. And with the amount of things that she did go through, I think that she won't do that, because she'll experience a lot of physical and mental pain doing that.
Sure, it's the same as for like a molestation.
Exactly.
Like that. Like they can block it out, and once they've blocked it out, if they don't recall it, then it's not bothering them. Yeah, I understand. And it's not to say that I don't have sympathy for her and I don't feel for her. I simply I don't see it the same way I saw it when I went into it.
Oh, definitely.
And I don't see the medical abuse being the reason she killed her mom, because I'll be honest with you, why wouldn't she have killed her mom at 14?
I think when it comes to the criminal aspect of this case, it was a control thing. It was that she felt like she was never going to get away. Not that she's medically abused me and I need to kill her. I think it was she's never going to let me do what I want to do. She's never going to,
Right.
be an adult and have a boyfriend and have a life and be sociable. And like we discussed that,
Right.
possibly she was thinking of moving out of Louisiana or out of Missouri. And that was just going to be another, now you're going to be 15 again kind of thing. And I think that Gypsy was going to do absolutely not. I'm an adult now. Screw you. And then felt scared, but also defiant, and she was mad. That's the thing. She was mad and hormonal and angry, and those pent up emotions really
And
built
on
up.
drugs that
Yeah.
are mind altering.
Right. So this built it all up until it was the breaking point, and having Nick come down and move on from that. And knowing like myself, me and her are very similar in age.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess? Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually. Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Like it's a rage. It's an emotion. It's wanting to have control of your life, and knowing that she was never going to get it. I think that's why the criminal aspect happened. The medical aspect is interesting because it is a issue, but it's not the issue that caused the crime.
I agree. I think Mike was brilliant in making it about that, but I mean, that's what defense attorneys do. Let's just be honest. They look for all of it, but he didn't even have everything, and that's what he went with. And I think he just sold it down the river that way because it was the easiest way to do so, and he knew that it would be sympathetic.
Oh, definitely.
And and that's why you don't see the sympathy for Nick, because there was nothing to sell down the river. I mean, there just wasn't.
Right. It's the boyfriend. Has some issues, but he's a boyfriend. He knew her online. He wanted his girlfriend. His girlfriend made him believe a lot of stuff. And he wanted to be the hero and the savior. And it wasn't as interesting as a girl who's had her head shaved and
medically prodded and is an anomaly for 23 fucking years. Right.
Then just a month later, Gypsy's in the emergency room for another button change, but this time the site is infected. A G-tube site really doesn't get infected unless there's really improper care or an internal issue that there's a lot of leaking around the tube, which she's never had visits seen for that. So we can kind of infer that this was due because she wasn't properly cleaning the stoma, the hole where the feeding tube was placed. So what they would do is then they would do like a topical antibiotic and cream and dressings to try to make sure there's no excoriation or deepening of that hole.
Right.
And then we kind of go on and we see many.
Okay. Well, let me ask you on this real quick, because so if Dee Dee was willing to sit and puncture her eardrums, yet we never see her change the feeding tube other than taking it into an emergency room and having it done. So you can't say that it's because she didn't want to do that to Gypsy herself, because obviously she has no problem shoving something in her fucking ear.
Exactly.
So what do you make of that? Like how, why?
Well, I can't say exactly what was going on in the month of July of 2004, if there was something, third party kind of happening, whether that was a social thing or they had other appointments or they went on a trip or there was something else going on where maybe, Gypsy just forgot about proper care. Because at this point at her age, I don't believe that Dee Dee was doing anything with the tube. It was Gypsy who was connecting and disconnecting herself. And I've had my G-tube and it's painful and sore, but once you've had it for a long time, it kind of just becomes a part of you. And when it gets infected, it does burn and hurts. It's red, it's raw. And so I think that Gypsy must have kind of known, and possibly when she would have notified Dee Dee, Dee Dee might have just been like, just wait, it'll get better kind of thing. And then when it doesn't get better, oh, then we'll bring her to the emergency room because it's an issue now. So I think.
Could this have been a way for Gypsy to maybe cry for help without crying for help?
I'm sorry, what?
Could this be a way of Gypsy to cry for help without actually, like, I don't know, crying for help? I mean, like, everybody wants to know why she didn't stand up. Could she have not taken care of this in a way so that possibly maybe she would be in an emergency room again, and maybe by miracle somebody would question something?
I mean, it's a possibility, but most likely no, because it's not uncommon for a G-tube site to be infected.
Okay.
And so I think there were other small opportunities. This would have been too small.
Okay. I mean, I'm just trying to figure it out because it just
right.
3 years and I'm still mind boggled.
Oh. Right. I think we'll always be mind boggled on this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then she'll go to the emergency room 4 more times, but different emergency rooms for other ear infections with perforations. But she'll go to the children's emergency room. She'll go to Nathan's Memorial Center. I believe she goes to Tulane, and then she goes to the children's ENT, all within 2 months for otitis media with perforation. The ear is one of those things that closes up actually quite quickly. So this is getting her ear stabbed like many, many, many times within a year.
Right.
Which, not good. Painful. But then we see just another ER visit for her G-tube button getting changed again. And we see that so many times is that Dee Dee never did it herself and always went to an ER to do it.
That's bizarre.
Yes, it is. When you have a sick child, usually you do things on your own.
Totally bizarre.
And then when you go now into 2005, she is now seen by another dietitian regarding switching from Pediasure to an adult formula. The dietitian calculated out the calories for nutrition and for adult formula, and that prescription for formula was sent to Coram for osmolate. And the same thing happens again, that Dee Dee refuses the shipment and asks for Pediasure. There's no reason to refuse the formula other than wanting to starve your child. Because both are under the insurance. It's not like she would have had to pay more for the osmolite.
Well, it's not like Rod didn't offer to put her on private insurance either.
Right. It was just, she just refused it and demanded more Pediasure. And then we don't see follow-up again. No follow-up for that from that GI doctor and dietitian regarding the formula. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And then now we're in just a couple days later. She is seen for another her ear tube replacement. Again, getting them replaced. They fell out. We're putting them back in. And they give her more Botox for her salivary glands.
I just can't.
Yeah.
I go back and forth. This, folks, is why when we first started the episodes, in episode 1, in my opening monologue there, I basically said that you're going to hear us go back and forth over and over and over again about our thoughts and feelings, because every single time that we think we've heard something that sways us one way, and we're like, okay, so that's that. Okay, that's fine. Then another document comes along, and you're like, but wait, no, that can't be. But wait, no, that can't be. So this case is unbelievably mind-boggling, like in a totally different way than what we've talked about with Lacey Spears, in the fact of, like, with Lacey Spears, I don't get what she does to the kid in a way of, she's physically making her child sick. She can stand there and knowingly know, I just stuck, tons and tons of salt in my kid's feeding tube. Then I'm going to look at you and go, I have no idea. I don't know.
He's dying.
Like, okay, that's unbelievable to me. But this is completely different. This is so strangely odd, because it just continuously changes, like, the MO and the way that
it's not just, the mom killing her son in front of her and pretending she doesn't know what's happening. This is a mom who knows what she just did to her child, taking them to a doctor, and then that doctor is like, well, I'm so sorry that her ear tubes fell out. Let me put them back in.
No questions. No, hey, that doesn't normally happen. Maybe we should look into this. What's going on in her ear? Nope. Let's put some more in there. That's fine.
And remember, she's 15. 15-year-olds usually do not need ear tubes. This is when it happens when a child is 2 or 3, not 15.
Yeah.
And then putting more Botox into her neck, she is not having an issue that she's choking or hypersalivating. You took out her salivary glands a few months ago. She's fine. She didn't even come in for that. But that you just put more Botox in this girl's neck for no actual medical reason. No reason.
Well, Jesus. I
don't know. But then just a month later, she is seen as for a follow-up visit at the sleep clinic. But
oh my God, there's actually a follow-up visit?
There is, but
wow.
But mom didn't bring the machine, so they're not able to do anything.
Oh, it's not a laughing matter, but yet it so is, because if you don't laugh at this, my mind is going to explode.
Right. She never goes to follow-up visits, but then she went to the follow-up visit but did not bring the equipment that was needed, so they weren't able to do any testing. So then they go home.
That's fine.
End of story. Whoa, that follow-up visit was pointless. They couldn't do shit because she didn't have the machine. And knowing that was the only doctor appointment that day, it wasn't like, oh, there were other stuff and she forgot it. They were purposely going to the sleep clinic knowing to bring the machine, but mom didn't bring the machine. Then.
And one of the other nurses that we had at one point in time was telling me, when she was looking at the CPAP specifically, was that when she would look at the reports of it coming out, that there was just clearly times where the machine is just running, just all by itself. It's obviously not hooked up to anybody, because it's not like registering anything, and nobody ever questions that. Nope, that's not concerning. Oh, it's just running. Oh, well, all right.
Right, there
must be malfunctioning for the 90,000th time.
Right, there's no evidence that her throat was collapsing while she was sleeping, or that her tongue was blocking her airway. There was no snoring. And like, listen, my fiance, I'm 100% sure he has sleep apnea. He's going for a sleep study in a couple of weeks. He snores like nobody's business, but then he wakes up choking on his own saliva in the middle of the night. That's sleep apnea. Not this. There's no evidence of her having sleep apnea. Ever.
I mean, when she was little, it's one thing. She could manipulate it. Now,
right, she's 15.
She didn't even bother. Fuck it. I don't care. I'm not even gonna
I'm
bother.
not gonna even bring the machine.
They're not gonna question it. Not even gonna bring the machine. Screw it. Doesn't matter.
The machine is
We're
what
here.
has the records, and if you don't bring the machine, then there's no evidence that anything was off. So,
and then does she go back again at all, or no? No. Nice.
Solid.
Nice. And nobody's like, hey, she never came back. That's odd. Nope.
And the next thing we have
call it a day.
Is actually just a couple months later. She's seen by the same doctor, but for a upper respiratory infection and a sore throat. It's labeled as a sick visit, and they give her some antibiotics. They didn't do anything besides that. There was no, let's check your breathing, bring the machine so we just can see. No. And then just a month later, she's seen in the emergency room for an asthma attack and allergy issues. They give her meds, they send her home. Then she is seen again in the emergency room, but now at a different emergency room. And she has a chest x-ray done. It's normal, but they said that she has pneumonia. But the chest x-ray is normal.
How the hell do you have pneumonia and your chest x-ray is normal?
You don't.
Never mind. Because you don't.
There's a chest x-ray. There would be a darkening pattern. They would show fluid or atelectasis in any lobe. There's nothing. Her chest x-ray is normal. But she has pneumonia. And then the next day,
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess? Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually. Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Next day, she's admitted.
Does she still have pneumonia the next day?
Well, they don't call it pneumonia now, but now they say cough. They admit her to the hospital for having a cough, her muscular dystrophy, and they said that she has hypokalemia, which is when your potassium is low. And it was not, I don't have the exact number on me, but it wasn't low enough, like, oh my God, she's going to have a heart attack low. Just low, that malnourished low. Like she wasn't getting the proper formula for the last 2 years. Low. Yep. But so she has a cough. And then she's still in the hospital 5 days later for a cough and chronic asthma and chronic allergies.
And see, this is where I don't understand how she's in hospital for extended period of time and nobody effing notices that she can move her fucking legs.
I don't know if Dee Dee was like, keep them completely under the blanket and multiple blankets. Don't move. But this is one of those things where it's like, it says on her admitting.
Surely she would have moved while she was sleeping, Colleen.
Well, this is where they say it. The admitting diagnosis is muscular dystrophy. In muscular dystrophy, you're not completely paralyzed. So that's probably the rationale. Like she told Rod, she can move her legs, but if she'll move her legs more, which is completely a bullshit lie, but that you can move your legs somewhat with muscular dystrophy. You're not completely paralyzed. Because for some reason at Tulane, at this point in time, they don't write that she's a paraplegic.
That doesn't start till Springfield, right?
Exactly. They just write muscular dystrophy. But once she gets to Springfield, that's where we see the paraplegia and quadriplegia.
Which we'll be talking about in a couple episodes. And you guys, I want you to understand, okay, this is 2005. In August of 2005 is when Hurricane Katrina hits and she pieces out and goes to Springfield. All of this happened before August of 2005.
Yep. All right, and so we actually don't even have the record from Tulane when she was discharged. So we don't know whether she was just at Tulane until they decided to fly her out, or if there was a discharge date and we don't have records of a follow-up date. But that is where we're at from the records we do have from prior to Hurricane Katrina, which the records, again, were not lost.
No, they weren't. They weren't lost, and we've had such a horrible time trying to get them that I'm sure there's hundreds more that we don't have. So, yeah. Okay. Are we done? Unbelievable.
I know. I know.
I'm serious, Colleen. I go back and forth in 1 minute of whether I think Gypsy knew or whether she was being abused.
Yeah, I do.
Or whether she knew.
I do too.
Or whether she was being abused.
I do too. Like, was she compliant? Did she accept her fate? Did she do it herself? I don't know. I cannot have a valid opinion on it because it goes back and forth every single page of every document of every
document.
I don't know.
Yeah, this is for me. I know this is where I get like nobody deserves this, and this is where I jump on I had a feeding tube, they suck, I hated life kind of thing, and where I feel for Gypsy probably the most, knowing how painful it is, and just knowing that with her Nissen fundoplication, she didn't have, I have a little bit of a different anatomy from the bypass. So my feeding tube was in my old stomach. So I almost died from a volvulus because it was old stomach, so I couldn't throw up. Versus Gypsy can't throw up, even though she only has the one GI tract. She can't throw up because the Nissen wraps around the esophagus, preventing throw up, which really does help in terms of heartburn and reflux, but there's the drawback there. But then Gypsy was put on as a child Pediasure, which is a pretty general standard.
Right.
Typically, though, when it comes to kids who are really sick all the time, we can even see different formulas that are a little bit more nutrient dense and to help boost on calories. And
so is it like used as a supplement mostly?
It's when somebody doesn't eat really by mouth, it's used as total nutrition. Pediasure is generally used as a supplement for kids, in terms of that kids who still eat by mouth, they can drink, the Pediasure, in between meals to try to boost calories. But it's that, one bottle. But for formula usage, it's usually like 2 bottles at each mealtime. And then usually kids get a formula run overnight while they're sleeping. So if they're only going to do the Pediasure during the day. So there's a lot of different formulas to get the total formula intake.
Wow.
But
and so basically she's starving her, yeah?
Yes, she starved her. Plain and simple. Starved her. Because she was fed Pediasure until, about 18 years old. And that's when the doctor had said, we need to change formula because she's getting older. She needs something a little bit more calorie dense, and then ordered the formula. But then the home care company tried to send that formula. Dee Dee refused it, said she wants to keep her on the Pediasure. So they, did the math calculation to determine, okay, how much Pediasure she needs to drink. And they sent a letter to her doctor, but that was it. There was no more follow-up. And
okay. But Colleen, do you think that maybe it's because she wasn't eating the formula? Maybe she was actually eating?
With how tiny she is, I don't think so, because the tendency is in her family, Rod is tall, decent, not tall, but a normal average height for a dude.
Right.
And Dee Dee gained a lot of weight, but she was chubby as a teenager. So there should have been usually a tie-in to be average height with prone to gaining weight. Mm-hmm. And we see that Gypsy is under 5 feet and was around, it was like less than 100 pounds.
Yeah.
But when the crime happened, and it's normal for a person under 5 feet to be under, but not when you're in that situation.
Right. I mean, I guess because she has bulked up a lot since she went to prison. So obviously it shows that something was going on, that she wasn't getting enough nutrition, obviously. Yeah.
Well, that was one of the things that the prison nurse had said, was that Gypsy was the first patient that was an inmate that she had ever seen that gained weight the first year in prison instead of losing weight.
Right.
And when I saw in the medical records, I don't know if it was one of the social workers in the hospital or a nurse that spoke with Dee Dee and said, she's at an age where she can be moved to Ensure instead of Pediasure. Dee Dee responded, oh, she doesn't tolerate that well. And they just put that in the notes, and that was it. And I'm like, if you compare this to a person whose child doesn't have a feeding tube and eats solid food, and the child is underweight, and they say, hey, your child needs more calories in their diet, and I say, oh no, he doesn't tolerate more calories well, so we're fine with what he's eating right now, I'd most likely have a CPS case for not feeding my kid. If they're saying that, 80% of her nutrition came through the feeding tube, and she wouldn't give her an adult formula when she was technically considered an adult, why was that just taken note of and moved on? Like, isn't that neglect? I don't understand.
There are a lot of issues that come about from this topic, especially knowing that, somebody needs more calories, especially if they're getting sick all the time. Their body's immune system is on, overdrive, and it's not. They need those calories.
I mean, that can even cause the seizures that she's claiming she has, correct?
Yeah. And she doesn't tolerate it. How do you know she doesn't tolerate it? She physically can't throw up.
Yeah.
Well, not to mention you've never tried it. So how would you even know? Unless she went and bought her own, and then I guess that's what she could have said. Well, we tried it one time. We went and tried it, and she just didn't like it. It made her very sick. Maybe she didn't throw it up, but maybe she was really sick for days, and she couldn't throw it up. The poor thing. It's awful. Yeah. Okay, and while we're talking about this is the one place that I think we can talk about this. All right, we try to not talk about the act very often because it's completely inaccurate. But this is one of the times that I thought it was hilariously inaccurate.
It was hilarious.
Okay, this is absolutely bonkers to me. Has anybody ever, Colleen, you have a feeding tube. Have you ever shoved a piece of pizza in a damn blender and blended it up with Ensure and thrown it in a feeding tube?
It's probable. There are blenderized people who blend their food. But if your daughter is allergic to sugar, not a real thing, then absolutely not.
But what would be the point of that? Seriously, can she taste it? Can she even taste it? No.
It's a lot about usually it's adults blenderize food for themselves, so that way
For
they
pizza?
feel like it could be. If usually it's for people who are they weren't always with the feeding tube. It was something they needed, and they physically, so say they can't eat the pizza by mouth anymore, and they really want to eat the pizza, that they would blend it up and put it through the tubes. That way they still feel normal. Or if they go to a family event, or
But does that give you like actually any kind of satisfaction? Like, do you actually feel like, wow, I just ate a slice of pizza?
I think mentally, yes. Physically, no.
Because you're not tasting it, right? I mean, if you guys could see my face right now, it's like, are you really serious? I mean, like,
Yeah, you can't taste it. You cannot.
So
Especially,
do you end up with like garlic burps or anything?
You would, actually. You would.
Also, I think that would be kind of gross to me, burping a food that I didn't even get to enjoy.
I think it would be worse with like a seafood.
Oh, God.
I thought it was the grossest scene ever. Like, I was just like, oh my God, really?
Well, so it had how they showed it, like she doesn't have like a high precision blender that, turns it to a puree. Like, blenderized food, it's got to be an actual liquid, like baby food thin, to go through the tube. So, but the biggest inaccuracy there is that at that time, that she thought, she had like a sugar allergy.
Right.
And that this full on whatever Domino's or Pizza Hut pizza is not having any calories or sugar or carbs, and the crust and the sauce and the cheese and the toppings. Typically, you 90% of people who have the blenderized diet most likely would not blenderize pizza. It's too difficult. It's too grainy. It's pretty gross.
It just sounds disgusting. I can understand applesauce. Like, okay, I get applesauce. I get maybe a fruit, even a vegetable. You could do spinach. Really? Okay, those things all made sense to me. I'm like, I know a friend who he lives on smoothies. That's his thing. Okay, that's fine. But seriously, pizza? Like,
well, some people do like a full dinner.
Oh, God.
Like turkey with stuffing, mashed potatoes, gravy, blender it up.
Gross.
You know what? I remember a friend of mine, when she had her baby, she decided that baby food was too expensive. So she would make the beef stew chunks with carrots and potatoes. She wouldn't put any seasoning other than she would do like chicken broth for the carrots and potatoes, and then she would puree them. And one day I was filling the little jars with her, and I tasted some, and it really tasted good. So certain things I could imagine eating as a puree, but I don't think if I didn't get to enjoy the taste of things, I don't think I would want to do it, especially if you're burping afterwards and it's like, oh, what is that?
Well, in terms of Gypsy's case, she most likely would not have been burping due to her surgery.
Yeah.
But other people.
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
So I have gastroparesis. So my stomach and intestines don't move at the right speed. And so majority of people with this condition have a feeding tube because it's really hard to gain weight or stay the same weight. So, but they can still eat by mouth sometimes, but sometimes it's just really a lot of nausea, and I experience that all the time. And so Thanksgiving is a really hard time for me because 3 years ago, in October was when my first feeding tube was put in. And that, I still went to 3 different Christmases or Thanksgivings, 3 Thanksgivings, and with all the different family members.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had to sit at the table while everybody was eating, and I couldn't eat at all. I was NPO bed mouth, and it was so hard. And then the next Thanksgiving, I had my J-tube, and I was actually in the hospital on Thanksgiving, NPO.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even getting anything in the tube. So I was just sad. And so last Thanksgiving and then this Thanksgiving, I've been really having a lot of weird issues. But I definitely can see it from somebody who has been able to eat some years and not be able to eat some years, that it's a mental thing. It's even if you would get the burps, it's about having that satisfaction that you're actually being a normal person
and participating in what everybody else is. I get that. Now, see, that I can get, and I can understand maybe once in a while, like, hey, let's put some pizza. But it was just the grossest scene.
It was something that was not needed. People got the feeding tube thing already. It was an unnecessary scene.
It was ridiculous, is what it was, and I wanted to vomit myself watching it. I was like, "Oh God, this is hideous." Don't go anywhere. The Good Wives will be right back. Every great podcast needs a great website. Currently, our mother company, Mad Ginger Entertainment, is building their website using Bluehost. Bluehost is one of the best and most affordable web hosting platforms available. Plans start as low as $2.95 a month, and you can even integrate it with WordPress. So if you need your own website or affordable web hosting, grab our discount link in the description and get your podcast a bigger presence online at low costs.
Bonjour, mon ami. I bet you guys are just excited as the ladies here on our team, as they all love this time of the podcast. It's time for the Cajun French word of the day. Well, I want to tell you guys that the word I've chosen has a very special meaning, as I have attended many of these in my lifetime. And every Cajun French word has a story.
So the last 2 episodes, we've focused primarily on, the medical stuff in Louisiana. Now you're going to hear a lot more when we get to Springfield. It's very different. You can see a very big change from what we saw in Louisiana to what we see in Missouri. Louisiana, I kind of feel like she was, testing the waters to see what she could do and what she couldn't do. But then when she gets to Missouri, it's balls to the wall. Right?
And I think in Louisiana, there was a lot more of, she is a young girl, that it was being that she's not really, the 5-year-old's not going to do these things to herself.
Right.
But, once Springfield happens and she's 15 and older now, there's a conscious decision.
Yeah, I think it started off like we've talked about with this reward system and intimidation in the early years. I think that a lot of the early years was where she was causing actual physical things. She's causing those ear infections. They don't just happen. And she's causing her to not see well by putting those damn glasses on her, the Coke bottle glasses that we've all talked about and given our theories on. But I also think that, when we get to Springfield, it becomes more of a ruse. of just everything. She takes all the conning that she's ever done in her entire life and she throws it into this. And I think she conditioned Gypsy to go ahead and participate in this for whatever reason. Like we said, oh, you can take a trip to Disney. Oh, you can get another, so that's what we've been seeing. And it goes even tenfold in Springfield.
Right. They bring in the celebrities and politicians and the whole community. I mean, before they really even get there, they are already grifting people because that house was built for them.
Right.
That house, they lied to get that house.
Yeah. Yeah, and we talk about that in our next episode of how she ended up getting put into that house and how it happened. She was given help, and it's constant with them. And then the doctors in this, that's still, I grapple with that every day. When I look at these files and I look at the doctors, I just don't understand. I really don't. I don't understand. One of the things we talk about is the fact that there was no progressive things. Like the things that were done were so superficial, the tests that they ran. You see MRIs and CT scans and those things, but we're not seeing big blood panels. We're not seeing, comprehensive, constant testing to figure out what the hell is wrong with this kid. It's just
it's general, it's surface area tests that nobody is managing. They care for this, and we talked about it in this episode about how it's a team approach for these kind of sick kids. And somebody with a sick kid should always have one main doctor and multiple other doctors. So maybe they thought she had the main doctor because she saw Beckerman and Steele, and those were two big doctors that well known. That must be them, and that.
But we see
she's managing the care.
See those in Springfield, but I don't see a main doctor in Louisiana at all.
Well, it's because
other than I guess it's Beckerman. You know what? It's got to have been Beckerman. It has.
But she also didn't have as many conditions to be as reported. In Louisiana, she had a lot of things started to be reported that she had in Springfield, Louisiana, that she only had those superficial kind of things. So they wasn't as like, oh, she needs to have all these different tests and seeing all these specialists. Yeah, she didn't.
Right.
And people knew that she didn't.
Well, I think that Beckerman really still was the key to all of this because he saw her in both spots and he refuses to send over her documents to her. And I'm sure he's burned them at this point, and he'll claim that, oh, well, it was a standard purge.
Yeah, it's been too many years, and even if she has given consent, we don't have them.
Beckerman is definitely the key to everything, though. With all those tests that she had done, all test results get sent back to your primary doctor. So with all the test results that came back negative, he never questioned that. He's definitely the key to I think, to a whole lot of how she got away with all the medical stuff.
Right.
I think without Beckerman, she may not have been able to pull off what she pulled off.
Right. And we talk about that in our next episode about how, Munchausen by proxy or malingering moms, they're able to convince professionals to become their advocates and to work for them, basically. And I think that that's what happened here. I don't know if it's that she convinced him because he wanted, to impress Dee Dee and was enamored with Dee Dee, or if it really became cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching for him, like.
And maybe even a combination of both, because we talk about it in this episode that, he saw her in both locations and he continued to see her, but that they would have private, things where they were at his house. So he might have gotten an inkling that all these tests are getting sent to me and this is normal. What are we going on? And maybe he privately confronted Dee Dee about it. And maybe she was like, keep your mouth shut and we're going to keep coming to you and, we'll meet once a month and I'll give you, $2,000.
Right. Plus you can claim all the different tests and the da-da-da and the equipment and blah, 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 he gets to bill for all that shit.
Yep.
And the other doctor that I feel once we get into Springfield that you're going to see and you're going to question is Steele, because he was the primary care physician and he gets all these tests and these records. And he's even the one who Flasterstein writes to and says that she has Munchausen by proxy. You don't see anything else in his file about it. You don't see where he even called Flasterstein to say, hey, you stuck this in the chart. What the hell is going on here? And they've even alleged at some point in time that Steele's the one who calls. I think that he eventually calls the, Child Protective Services, but we don't know because it was an anonymous call. He can claim that now and say that it was him,
right,
to try to save
they would
face.
they would have no idea.
No.
And a lot of people can make calls to the Child Protective and Welfare agencies.
Right.
And sometimes they're like, well, I called and they didn't do anything. Or, nobody called, but somebody went out and checked, and then they're like, I'm the one who called.
Yeah.
It's on both ends.
Yeah. And the thing is like the medical stuff is probably the hardest pill to swallow because it just doesn't make any sense. And you cannot blame, yes, did she fall through every crack? She sure as shit did. Okay. Everyone freaking failed her in every which way, shape, or form, because at any point in time, somebody could have saved her. And while she might have been an effed up individual, she still would have been manipulative and she still would have had PTSD and she still would have been, through all the different things, but at least she wouldn't have been a murderer. Okay. And maybe if they'd caught it early enough, they could have helped her to get better. I don't think that there's a whole lot of chance now because it's so ingrained in her, these patterns of behavior, but I think that, the medical is upsetting because they did see her on a regular basis, whether she didn't come to follow-up visits or not. You've got her coming to a follow-up visit and she doesn't freaking bring the machine. That's fantastic. What is wrong with you?
Right. It's a concern.
But they see her every day and they don't do anything. Now, a social worker comes in, they see her one time, they're not trained, whatever. I can see how that could be misconstrued. And they're like, oh no, she's a wonderful mom. The house looks beautiful. The kid seems happy. And I don't see any bruises. She doesn't seem like she's not eating. She's got a feeding tube. So the mom's obviously taking care of her. Okay, I'm done. As some quack ass person probably called that she pissed off at Walmart, whatever. But the doctors, the negligence from the doctors, it's really mind-boggling.
And this is just the beginning. Okay, so don't tune us off just yet.
We got a lot more for you. Thanks so much for tuning in and dishing true crime with the Good Wives.
Don't forget to join our Patreon member club to get the full recipe shared tonight, inside documents and pictures from the case, bonus mini podcast episodes, live YouTube discussion, and an exclusive invitation to our discussion group on Facebook, and get some amazing Good Wives merch.
Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at True Crime Wives. And for more inside information, check us out on YouTube at Murder by Design, where we're currently talking about a few different true crime cases, from bullying murders to serial killers. We dish it all.
Have a good one from the Good Wives, serving up true crime, one dish at a time.